My name is Jane Massey. I am a very grateful member of Al-Anon. The Al-Anon literature states, Al-Anon has but one purpose, to help families of alcoholics recover from the effects of living with alcoholism. I would like to share a little bit of my story and the ways that Al-Anon has helped me. I have always known that some people drink too much. I remember my father going to intervene several times to help when Mary, an extended family member, was intoxicated and threatened suicide. I had a beloved uncle that was a stereotype street alcoholic. In elementary school, I remember going with my father to visit my Uncle Robert when he was locked up in the local sanitarium. Being young, I enjoyed these visits. I loved my uncle. But I obviously did not really understand the seriousness of the overall situation. My uncle did stop drinking before he died. He still died too young. My father told me that Uncle Robert drank because his wife was such a nag. I had a cousin reunion in the fall of 2018, last October. My Uncle Robert's daughter, cousin Nancy, who is 11 years older than I am, was there. Talking with Nancy, who had to go to work at 14 to help support the family, was a sobering contrast to my memories of enjoyable visits with her dad. I think of how much Al-Anon might have helped my aunt and my cousins. So, in elementary school, I knew there were families who had members who drank too much. It took me into adulthood to realize that I had been raised in one too. My family was just more subtle and very secretive. I was raised in what on the outside looked like a normal family. My father was a World War II vet, a chemist, and a real estate salesman. My mom was educated to be a teacher and stayed at home until I was 16. I have 3 brothers who are 3, 6, and 9 years older than I am. The makeup of my family in general was my oldest brother could do no wrong. My second brother could do nothing right. And my third brother was always treated like he did not belong in the family. He was not a real Flowers. Flowers was my maiden name. He looked like my mom's side of the family. Blue eyes, light brown hair. Why this was such a big deal, I really never understood. And I, the only girl and youngest, was the one who kept the peace no matter what the price. I learned very early from my mom to not rock the boat in the house. As an adult, looking back, it really bothered me how she taught me. I do believe that she was just trying to teach me how to survive in my family. My brothers had some very mean behavior from the time they were teenagers. I believe it was because of their drinking. One of my brothers got into a family friend's liquor cabinet. He was so drunk for so long. I know all siblings fight and are mean to each other, but there are lines you should not cross. The younger 2 of my brothers had knockout, drag-out, serious fights. Sometimes I peripherally got involved. They were scary, but remember, I knew I should not say a thing. When my oldest brother was married, had a baby boy, he would go out for cigarettes and come back a week later after being drunk. Eventually, his wife left him. My father told me that my brother drank because his wife was a nag. Over time, I did not stay close to my brother, but I always stayed close to my sister-in-law and my nephew. Maybe a good way to get a picture of my family is to tell you that my father bought my alcoholic brother a bar in downtown Washington, D.C. As time has gone by, I have tried to unravel all my stuff. This one still baffles me. My father died in 1976. In that same year, my maternal grandfather died. A year and a half later, my maternal grandmother died. My mom was devastated after losing her husband, father, and mother. My mom started drinking very heavily. Maybe she always drank. I think I said there were secrets in my family. I had heard of my mom's antics, riding down the banister rail at Uncle Edward's house, the fun-filled trip to the 1964 World's Fair, and something about social events in the neighborhood. When my father died, I had already had my own apartment, worked full-time, and took graduate classes at night. I dealt with everything by staying busy and just avoidance. I was very excited when I bought my first house. To me, it was a great accomplishment and was somehow my answer. Looking back, I do not have a clue why I thought that would happen. My mom started appearing at my doorstep on weekends when I would go out to take my dog in the morning. After several years of my mom's drinking, I decided I needed to do something. I did not know of Al-Anon, and I just did not know what to do. I traveled some for work and was introduced to a variety of high-tech companies on the West Coast that employed people just like me. I was a very experienced and accomplished software developer in the 1970s, which gave me great marketable skills. I was lucky to have had great job offers, and I came west and took a job at Tektronix in the late 1970s. As you probably know, even 3,000 miles did not fix what is wrong when your mommy drinks too much. When my daughter was born, we would go back east to visit. Over the years with my mom's drinking, my daughter and I stayed in a hotel whenever we went to visit. I could not control if she drank, but I could control if I was around it. There were so many times when we had plans for the day, but when my daughter and I would arrive to pick up my mom and start our day, my mom was too drunk to go. My brothers were the ones who decided we needed to do an intervention for my mom. It was a very difficult discussion, but my mom agreed to go to rehab. I remember my oldest brother telling her that he had not been able to quit drinking on his own, and she needed someone to help her. My youngest brother and sister-in-law picked up my mom from rehab. On the way home, they stopped at the grocery store. While they went grocery shopping, my mom went to the liquor store. My oldest brother died from alcoholism and drug abuse when he was 46. He stopped using drugs in his last several years. He never stopped drinking. Standing next to the nurse's desk with the doctor talking about my brother's kidney and liver failure, I noticed that everyone in my family smelled of alcohol. My family was not a safe place to drink in. I decided I would just not drink. A couple of months after my mom left rehab, she was coming to visit me. I knew I needed help. I went to see a counselor so she could tell me what I needed to do to keep my mom from drinking while she was visiting. When I think back, I wonder if that counselor smiled when I made that appointment. I thought after a couple appointments, she would give me the magic key. Well, she did give me a magic key. It was called Al-Anon. Al-Anon was a wake-up call that I needed to do things. I think I had an initial kind of normal reaction. Why did I need to change? I was not drinking. But with Al-Anon and private counseling, my life became much more manageable. It did not change anything about my mom's drinking, of course. I cannot control what anybody else does. But my mom knew I had boundaries, and she was no longer going to be around my daughter drunk. My rule was, if she was at my house and drank, I would put her in a hotel. I never had to do that. Growing up, church was always a safe and peaceful place. One of my college years was personally very hard, and I went to church almost every weekday at noon. It was such a comfort. I relied and rely on Al-Anon and God to help me set my boundaries. I needed to make sure that my boundaries were not vengeful. Al-Anon helped me to make boundaries and interactions with my family come from love and not anger. This is much easier said than done, but I think it is important. Alcoholism is a family disease. To those of us who live with this disease as children, sometimes have problems which the Al-Anon program can help us to resolve. Attending Al-Anon was eye-opening. You get to hear people talk about things that are just like you. Just knowing that you are not alone is one of the most comforting feeling there is. My mom died in an automobile accident over 25 years ago. When my brother called me, I still remember my second question was she drunk? It gave me great comfort that she was not. About a year after my mom died, one of my brothers chose to disappear from the family. There was no warning. The last time I saw my youngest brother was July of 1993, walking into a liquor store. I have had new needs for the Al-Anon program at different times in my life. I had a coworker that was an alcoholic. I had an employee who thanked me for giving him the opportunity to go to rehab. I have a very close friend who chose to use alcohol to self-medicate in dealing with her life. I have a loved one in my life that drinks too much. I have just set the boundary. We go to dinner, I do not pay for any liquor, and we spend a couple of hours talking. It is a boundary I can live with. Over the years, I've learned from and leaned on the Al-Anon program. Sometimes it is in Al-Anon meetings, and sometimes it is in Al-Anon readings. Before this service, I read the Gospel of Luke several times. Jesus met 10 lepers and healed them. Only one of those healed returned to glorify and to thank God. It is an important reminder to me to overtly thank God when blessings come my way. Al-Anon and the people that Al-Anon has brought into my life are some of those blessings I have thanked God for. Amen.
Amen.